This is Pivot Perspectives with Chris O'Byrne, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on their road to success, and get exclusive access on how to implement their success into your life and business. Pivot Perspectives is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Chris O'Byrne.
Hey, are you looking to scale your business from 5 figures to 6 figures or 6 figures to 7 figures? If you are, I have the perfect thing for you. What I want you to do today is I want you to go download a book. This book is going to take you through my 3-pillar system. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to growfast.cash. I say again, go to growfast.cash, and you're going to be able to download my free international best-selling book, which is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. You can take that book. It's going to help you scale your business to the next level. Again, go download it. Be good, be brief, be gone. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. Enjoy.
Jake Stahl, welcome to the show.
Oh, Chris, thanks for having me. It's quite an honor to be here.
I like to start with this question. Give me a defining moment. Okay, that's not a question, but give me a defining moment in your life that helped shape who you've become today.
Well, that's a pretty simple one. I was working for a corporation, and I had been one of their top reps, and they asked me to become a trainer. And I didn't know anything about training at the time. I had no idea how to transfer my skills. But the first class I gave, the reviews were incredible. And it made me realize that there was possibly a home in this arena for me. And I can still think back to that first review sheet I got from a full class. It made all the difference in the world, and I truly think it's why I'm here today.
It started you on this path, so that's pretty significant. What exactly is a fractional chief learning officer?
A fractional CLO is kind of a fancy term for a head of training development or a VP of training. So what I do is I help companies do everything from onboarding to making sure their employees in whatever department it is are ready to do their job effectively. You know, in this day and age, the average price just to get somebody to walk through the door is $18,000. And by the time you add on their salary, benefits, their first paycheck, hardware, software, bringing a person on board is a very costly endeavor. So you want to have somebody that not only returns on the investment quickly, but they do it effectively, they retain the information, and they become proficient. And that's what I help companies do with their employees.
So are you often involved in the in that financial decision or helping people understand that? Or maybe even better is what are some of those things that you do as a chief learning officer?
I help them develop training programs regardless of the department. So I will help them onboard people into finance or legal. I will help put together training curricula for them, or I will outsource it to somebody who knows it better than I do. I would say my specialty is doing it in the sales department because of my background in sales. But yeah, we often talk finance and how much it's going to save them versus the churn and burn of letting somebody go that hasn't been doing well, or that just hasn't shown a return on investment for the money that was spent to bring them on in the first place.
I apologize. Your big chunks of it are cutting out, stalling as we go. Not sure what's going on there.
No pun intended.
Pardon the pun. So that's all right. We'll maneuver around that.
Okay.
I'm not sure what's going on. Am I appearing clear to you, or am I pretty fuzzy to you?
You pause once in a while.
Okay. I'm not sure what's going on because I have a pretty fast connection. Well, we'll just keep going. Doesn't make a
Okay.
difference.
All right.
So, hmm.
I
Now
don't
you're
have anything else running on my side. I've closed down all my other stuff, so I'm not sure. I don't think it's on my side, but I can't say
okay.
that for 100% sure.
Let me try closing several things on mine.
Yeah, I'm going to close a few more on mine as well, see if we can get this to work out. The other two of the three that I did today on StreamYard did not have this problem.
Oh, okay.
But one of them, we had a slight issue in the beginning and then it resolved.
I wonder if Riverside is playing around with some different things or
Yeah.
improving their system. Well, let's see what happens. I've got just about everything else closed down now.
Yeah, I have everything closed down too. So we'll see.
Okay. And you were telling me about the different things that a learning officer does. And okay, that will lead me into my next. So forgive me if you answered this as I
That's
asked the
okay. No, it's
question, but
fine. Yeah.
okay. All right, we'll jump back in.
Okay. So the chief learning officer does a couple of things. We help the companies with onboarding. So to make sure that people that come on are acclimated quickly to the culture. And a lot of times I'll do that in conjunction with HR, who has their own onboarding that they like to use. The second piece is we develop training programs so people can continue to get better in the job that they do. We do curriculum mapping so that we can do a roadmap to future promotions or just them moving to different spots in the company. And then last but not least, because I do specialize in sales, I actually do sales training programs and I help salespeople advance in a company as well and improve their sales.
Do you actually deliver the training, or are you all of the stuff that goes into that point?
Yeah, I usually deliver the training if it goes to the sales group. If I do have SMEs that are experts in other areas, then I gladly bring them in, like if we need something for legal or finance. So I will bring in people wiser than I am in those areas. But I like to do the training myself because I'm very passionate about it.
So when does a company get to the point where they feel they need a chief learning officer?
Yeah, there's usually two spots, and these are usually smaller businesses. So 500, 250 and below, number of people wise. So the first time they'll give me a call is if they're performing random acts of training. So they have somebody new come on board and, here's a PowerPoint deck, here's a sales script, now go and perform. Or, here's our bylaws, go in and do whatever you can do to help us out. So when they're doing random acts of training, they'll usually give me a call to try and straighten things out and to create something solid from that. The second time they'll call me is when their sales just aren't performing as they had hoped they would. So they have sales scripts, they have a firm program, but they're not getting the sales that they need. So because I have a degree in psychology and certifications in neuro-linguistic programming, I tend to take sales from a psychological perspective versus just repeat doing phone calls all day and eventually you'll hit somebody who'll buy from you.
So I'm interested in that piece there. What are some of those big causes of a company slowing down on sales, even despite having the tools and things in place? What's usually going on that's preventing them from getting there?
Yeah, and that's a great question. Usually what happens is sales representatives will go in and we have what's called the honeymoon period. They're thrilled to be at a new company. They're thrilled with the new product. Everything's glossy and shiny and bright. But when the honeymoon period smacks headlong into repeated denials and turndowns and hangups, people tend to get a little jaded and it gets hard. The sales rep's life is a tough one. And so what I do is I try to help them get beyond that. We discuss the conditioning that goes into a customer, like what makes them come up with That's too much money. I've already got 9 of those. I don't need this right now. I need to talk to my partner. And I talk to representatives about how to get by that, to empathize with people and truly understand the way they make decisions. And Chris, when we can get beyond their need to just get on the phone and throw up their product and hope for the best, it's amazing the transformations we get to take place. But the key to that is listening. If I can give somebody enough reason to listen and tell them the value they can get from it, that's everything. If I can get somebody just by that hump, I can teach them to sell anything.
All by listening. It sounds easy. Where is the hang up with people when it comes to listening?
Most companies get into the revenue drive mode and they get into sales as a math game. So what they'll do, Chris, is they'll look at their CRM and they'll say over the past 5 years, for every 20 calls we've made, we've got an appointment. And for every 10 appointments, we get 1 sale. So what they say is, as we move forward, for every 20 calls we make, we're going to get an appointment. And for every 10 of those, we're going to get a sale. So we just make sure we make that number of calls. So then the reps get into the drive of, okay, I'm going to churn through 20 calls and I'm just going to give my spiel over and over again. And I will eventually hit it because that's the way math works. The reality is they start to lose focus on the messaging. And if I'm too busy getting ready to talk, the listening takes a back seat. So I teach people the reason they should listen. I don't just tell them you should listen.
And what a boring job to just spit out your same old sales message every time.
And that's why companies churn and burn through sales development reps all the time.
I'm always hearing it. So you're a certified NLP practitioner.
Yep.
What does it take to get that, and what does it really mean?
Well, what it takes to get it is you go through an accredited organization that can teach you neuro-linguistic programming and run you through the proper phases of getting certified. The one that I went through, I think if I total up all the time I spent in it, was probably 200 hours of coursework, 30 reports, essays, interviews. It was a lot of work. But what that means, Chris, is that you have the ability to read people and understand the way they process information in a very brief time frame. It allows you to understand the mode that they get into when they think about decisions. It helps you understand the way they frame the purchase and what anchors them to the no and what they associate with when you're talking to them. The great thing about NLP is if you just ask enough questions to listen to the way they process information, selling becomes an easier process. So some people say NLP is manipulating, and I would argue it's almost exactly the opposite. It's understanding and being able to adapt to the conversation.
Does it work well with just about any sales methodology out there, or are there some that it just works better with, or can it simply replace what people are doing for sales?
Well, let's unpack that a little bit. So there's a lot of great methodologies out there. There's a lot of companies that have extremely good programs. The issue to me with a methodology is that it often involves a flat message or a flat way you deal with everybody. And the reality, Chris, is we're all different. We all process differently. We all associate differently. We all frame things differently. So the same message over and over again tends to get old and lost. So NLP used for a sales process allows you to adapt to each conversation. Is it a one size fits all? The answer is only if people take it seriously and decide that they really want to do this. But what I found, Chris, over 30 years of experience is that in a company's desire to get revenue quickly, they will give a sales methodology a chance for an all too brief period of time. And it takes time. People need time to learn this and change the way they talk and think. I don't want to say NLP isn't the answer for everything, but the companies I've worked with that we've used this with, we've had really stellar results.
Looking to grow your business beyond 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures plus, what I want you to do is go download this book. The title is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. It will help you grow your business past 5, 6, and 7 figure. Go download the book today, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and download the book for absolutely free.
Now, a lot of people believe that Tony Robbins is the inventor of NLP, but it actually goes back quite a ways before that, right?
Yeah, NLP goes back a long way, and it's actually something that's developed over time. I would argue Tony Robbins is probably the most visible, fluent practitioner of NLP, and he gives it really a great name. And everything he does is centered around, or at least has its foundation in NLP.
So the next question, what is a mind mechanic?
I get asked this all the time. I'm really glad I chose those words because it generates a lot of great conversation. I think the mind is not too much different than a car. You put an engine in it, you get it running, and every once in a while you need to check under the hood and just see, do I need to change anything? Is the fluid okay? Do I need to get something worked on? And Chris, honestly, we all can improve every day with the way we think, the way we associate, the way we frame, and it's a constant process. So when I call myself a mind mechanic, I take a lot of pride in coaching individuals, and we talk about what we can do to change the way they think about things to maybe frame it in a better light and get more positive results. So all I do is I look under the hood of the brain and I see if I can help.
That sounds pretty easy until you dig in.
Yeah, some people say, well, are you a counselor or are you a therapist? No, I'm neither. I understand NLP well, and I use it in the areas where I think it will help, but I'm in no way the answer for everything and everybody. And I know how to stay in my lane.
So what makes someone or some business a perfect client for you?
The perfect client for me is a business who they're tired of looking at sales as a math equation. They're tired of just adding more people in the hopes that they're going to generate more revenue. And they're ready to make a change and commit to it. I think the larger a company becomes, the less flexible they are. So I try to keep my clients down to where we talked about before, 500 people or less, medium-sized sales teams, open to new possibilities, and they're willing to give it a 6-month commitment to make the changes that need to be made. I've done the work for Ford Motor Company, Men's Warehouse, Quest Diagnostics, and they're just too large, and they don't commit to the change as well as the smaller companies do.
What are some of those questions you ask them to show them where the gap is and where they're at now to where they'd like to be?
The first place we start is with demographics. What does your client look like? If I picked any one of your random clients out of an audience, what am I looking at? What did your marketing team determine is that perfect client? And then I look at their sales process. A lot of times I'll ask them if I can dig into their sales recordings. Do you have something like Gong, or do you have something like Fathom that records the calls that I can look at them and see where you're going? Then I like to look at their sales scripts. And after that, I give them a 1 hour. I wind up starting with a 1 hour free consult where we can just talk through all of these things and figure out where we need to make some changes. Because Chris, one thing that's often overlooked is where you're calling. I'll hear a New York sales rep call another New Yorker and do a pitch, and then they'll call Atlanta, Georgia, and they'll do the exact same pitch. And it just doesn't work that way. So if they don't have different modes or different scripts for different parts of the country, you're already missing the boat.
So what is your process like? How do you specifically help someone when you start working with them?
I have what I call the adaptive conversational blueprint. So we take them through a process. The first thing we do is we help them understand that perception is reality. And although we hear that from the time we're children, most people don't take it seriously. So a representative of our company will sell to someone's reality when they should be selling to their perception. So we go through that process. Then we go through the conditioning process. What are all of us conditioned to do? And a great example, Chris, is your cell phone rings, you look down, you see the number, and you go, oh, I just don't have time for this person. And everybody knows who that person is. A name comes to all of us, right? That's conditioning. So when a person picks up the phone at a business that you're selling to, you have to remember they're conditioned. And all their thoughts line up. I've already got one. That's priced too high. The contract's too long. I have to wait till next quarter. So we talk about the conditioning and how to break through that. And once we do that, we get into value-based selling. So we appeal to their dream outcome. We appeal to how quickly we'll get it done, how little struggle of it is for the person on their end to make this purchase. And then we talk about follow-up. So the blueprint I have, Chris, is very well structured, but it starts with learning the psychology of the person on the other end of the phone.
So here's a selfish question, because
Sure.
it's something that I have thought of for a long time. When you have, let's say you've had a conversation with somebody and you've sent them the information that they've asked for, but the follow-up gets tricky. That's where things can get uncomfortable and people can say dumb things. And what is a good, like, general approach to take when you're doing that sort of follow-up with someone?
So you're talking about from a corporate perspective?
Well, just from a sales perspective, let's say that I'm trying to sell to somebody, and because I think a lot of our listeners and readers will be in that place of,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. So in my opinion, keep in mind, this is just my opinion and what works for me and the clients I've worked with, is your follow-up should just be value-added reach outs. So let's say you and I get off, Chris, and you want to reach out to me later on. It shouldn't be, hey, listen, we talked about that selling idea. Are you interested? Are we ready to move ahead? It should be, hey, Jake, you know what? I saw this article in Psychology Today. Just wanted to forward it to you. I will remember what we talked about, and I will remember who you are. So you pinging me and offering value without adding pressure, it's a gold mine. But what most people do is it's, hey, Jake, I sent you that proposal 2 weeks ago. Did you have any time to think about that? Or did you talk to your partner? Or did you figure out how to finance it? Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
But if you say to them they're a car dealer, hey, I just saw the Mustang came out and it's AI driven. Man, are you guys selling that? Here's an article I found. They're going to remember. So it's a value-added follow-up, in my opinion, that wins every time. Most of the people I follow up with, they come back and they say, wow, Jake, thanks for the article. Hey, I know I owe you something, and I promise I'll get back to you.
It seems like a lot of work to dig into what each person is going to be interested in, find the article that's going to be of interest to them. Is there a way to make that process easier, or is it just you putting in the work?
You know what? It's really not that difficult. So, Chris, if you talked to me the other day and you do a Google on sales training is horrible, for you to find a link to send me, it is 3 seconds. You know, it doesn't take that much effort, but it shows me as a customer, hey, wow, he remembered me, he thought about me, and granted, this article is old, but this is exactly what we talked about. I can do 15 follow-ups in probably a half an hour. Just Google this topic, copy the link, send it to somebody. It's amazing. And let's look at this the opposite way. We say it's a lot of work to follow up, but is it any less work than following up with 80 people and have them continue to tell you that they're not interested? Isn't it worth the extra 15 seconds to really tweak them and make an impression? In my opinion, it is.
Yeah, I have to agree with that, because every time I've tried it the other way, I don't get anywhere. It's annoying. I can feel it, how annoying it is.
Yeah.
So, what are some success stories you have?
Well, I'm fortunate in that I've had a number of success stories over the years, admittedly, and twice as many failures. So those would kind of lead to the success stories, right? Um, One of my favorites is I did work with a company, and this was before I even went out on my own, but I worked with a company and I took over as district manager for a district. And the first thing the VP of sales to me said was, "This guy on your team, I want him out, fire him." And I said to the VP, I said, "I'm not going to do that. Give me 6 months." So this person was low in the totem pole. They'd been with the company for 11 years, never did anything noteworthy. They were just a representative. And in 6 months' time, we had them as the top seller in the region. We had them listed in the top percent of the company. And the following year, they were in the top 5%. So it's a matter of spending the time and getting genuinely interested in what's under the brain's hood. What made him tick? What were his preconceptions that kept him from going anywhere? And honestly, Chris, I use that as motivation whenever I work with a company or an individual.
So let's shift to your book. What is the Life Coach's Toolkit about, and how do you use it to help your ideal customer?
Well, the Life Coach's Toolkit is a compendium of 25 authors from around the globe. And it's all talking about how to coach somebody through life, how to give them hints that will help them move forward in their lives and become more successful. My chapter is on something I developed a long time ago called the 210 rule of communication. And it's based on a simple premise. For every 10 minutes you talk, you generate 2 minutes worth of questions in the listener's mind. So when we think about if you're presenting your product, or we think about you're giving a presentation, for every 10 minutes you talk to me, I'm constantly coming up with questions or thoughts or trying to figure out what you're telling me and how it applies to me. So I took that rule and I turned it on its head. And I said, if I check in with a client every 2 minutes, and then at the end of 10 minutes, I say to them, I babbled quite a while. Let's just, in the last 10 minutes, did I say anything that really was off base, or are we good? So the 210 rule just says check in every 2 minutes. At the end of 10 minutes, sum it up for questions. And that does an amazing thing, Chris. It forces you to listen. It forces you to do the right interactions. It forces you to ask the right questions. So in a way, it's teaching you that the cadence of the conversation is more important than the content. Because until you know there's a back and forth, what I have to say doesn't matter. And that's the whole premise for my chapter in the book.
So what advice do you have for other people who are writing a book or thinking about it?
It's a labor of love. And I heard a quote just today that I thought was funny. And it's 90% of writing a book is procrastination.
Yes.
So I thought that was very catchy. My advice is it's a labor of love. It's got to be something you're passionate about, and you need to be open to feedback. I'm writing a solo book right now that I hope to have out by early fall. And you just go through it and you constantly think of ways to rewrite it. One of the hardest parts is getting a good editor and publisher that tells you when to stop.
Yeah.
You know, because you can think yourself for years and never publish the book. But if you have a good person that tells you when to stop and helps you reorganize things, it means everything.
Have you found that person?
I have. I have a person that has put out a very successful series. Can I do a name drop? Am I allowed to do that on here?
Absolutely. Yep, that's what I'm looking for.
His name is Eric Severson, and he did a great series called Peak Performance, and it's a series of 5 or 6 books, and he put together the Life Coach's Toolkit, volumes 1 and 2 as well. He's done TEDx talks. He's quite the adventurer, and he's super good at just helping me get through the book process.
Great. Yes. I'm glad you were able to promote, because there are so many people in the book industry that are shady that when somebody good comes along, I like making sure everybody knows about it.
I've run into my share of those.
Yes, there is no shortage. So as we wrap things up, what are some words of wisdom you can share with us?
I think one of the biggest things I'd love to share, Chris, is when people are doing business outreach, when you're doing biz dev, it's not about you. Make your first several outreaches about anything but you and your product. Ask them about them, ask them about their industry and how did they become what they became and how can you help them on LinkedIn or promote their business. And Chris, a magic thing happens. When I ask you about yourself and you start to feel good about our conversation, you finally come back to me at some point and you go, Jake, I've talked an awful lot. Let's hear about you. And that's when your message hits home. So if we can put our ego aside in business development and dedicate it to just our customer for the first 4 or 5 outreaches, you're going to make magic happen.
I totally agree. It's so easy just to go on about ourselves instead of putting the other person first. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you coming on today, and I look forward to talking to you more.
Yes, thanks for having me. It was quite an honor, Chris.
You bet.
Hey, we all want to scale our business. Hey, I have the answer for you today to help you do that. If you're looking to scale from 5, 6, even 7 figures and beyond, book called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. I'm going to give it to you for free. All you have to do is type in growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and you can download the book for absolutely free. I hope the book helps you this year. Take your business to the next level. Again, go grab the book, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. I wish you the best and grow, scale, and win.
Thanks for listening to Pivot Perspectives with your host, Chris O'Byrne. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advice on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.
There it is. Magnum. Holy moly.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Dear God.